Hey everyone, I'm going to be recording this video a little differently than usual. I try to work with scripts and notes and everything, but I get hung up on details and I kind of cripple myself by trying to get in every little piece of information that I can, that I think I kind of overburden myself with editing and revisions. So I hope you'll forgive me if I'm a little off the cuff. I kind of talk. I have a way of pausing a little too much, I think, when I talk off the top of my head. So I hope this isn't too annoying or weird to listen to. I'll just speak as naturally as possible. So I'm recording this intro as the number 500 strip, at least on Webtoon, for the series formerly known as Bite Size. We're calling it Probl-o-Matic right now. We're going to try that on and see how it works. I'll explain why in a little bit. It's number 500 on Webtoon. The numbering's a little funky. In reality, I think we're at 489, but I like round numbers. People like round numbers. We like to celebrate. So, hey, 500 strips almost is kind of an accomplishment. If you've read it this far, I'm really grateful. I hope you're enjoying the strip. I still enjoy drawing it. I'm more interested in it than ever, even though the story is kind of taking some weird turns. Anyway, so I'm going to just read off some questions off of Webtoon here, and I'll just answer them as openly as possible. Actually, before I even go for it, you see, this is why I have problems with revisions and edits. I just had another idea or thought. I've been watching the World Cup. I'm gonna put it like a little timestamp here. Oh man, I just watched Mexico and Sweden. What an exciting game. Is anyone watching the World Cup? I don't actually watch soccer very often, but I love watching the best of the best duke it out to see who's the number one, you know. So if anyone doesn't know, Mexico was going against Sweden, and if Mexico was losing the match, they had to win to stay in the tournament, but they were losing 3-0. It was really bad. And the only way that they could have stayed in what is called the round of 16 to advance, there was another game going on simultaneously, Germany against South Korea. And if Germany won that game, I think Mexico would have been knocked out. So you see all these fans in Mexico watching their phones, and they're crying and they're cheering at the same time because South Korea scored a goal at like the 90th minute. And that meant that Germany would not advance if they continued losing. And so Mexico would be able to stay in the tournament. And so Mexico lost, and then South Korea scored a second amazing goal at like 95 minutes in overtime. It was the craziest goal I've seen all year, where there was just, I don't know where the German goalie was. He was not there. And this Korean guy just ran from the halfway point by himself, caught the ball and got it in at 95 minutes. Everyone was screaming and crying. I love the World Cup. I don't know, it just happened. I was watching it and I thought it would be so much fun to just talk about it. I'm sorry. But yeah, this is a great time of the year. If you're not a soccer fan, I still recommend watching the World Cup. If you love drama and watching people scream, it's so much fun. The US and Greece are not in it, so I'm not really cheering for anybody, but I love to watch good games. So it's still a lot of fun. All right, anyway, on to the question. Okay, I'm gonna try to record my answers while browsing on my phone. I hope this works. I'm at strip number 495. First question is from Samboni. Will Duncan ever talk to his wife about being more reasonable towards Greg, or just more reasonable in general? The basic question, and I have been getting this one a lot, so I may as well answer it here. Will Duncan ever talk to his wife? In order to answer that properly, this might be kind of a long answer, so I hope you'll bear with me. I have to sort of go into an explanation of pro wrestling, if you'll forgive me. In pro wrestling, there's terms called a heel and a babyface. And in pro wrestling, the heel is what you would call the bad guy. He's the guy who will slap, cheat, break all the rules against the good guy, also known as the babyface, or shortened as face. Face would be like... I used to watch the WWF like way back in the 90s, so I have to think of like the Hulk Hogan back in the day, if anyone knows him. Of course everyone knows him, but he was the good guy. He would stick to the rules, he would never do anything naughty, he would always, if he ever punched back against the heel, let's say the heel was Andre the Giant, even though he wasn't really a heel, we're thinking of a nasty guy who cheats, like Goldust. Or The Rock earlier on in his career. These were the guys who would trash talk and... anyway, so in wrestling, the heel's job is sort of to generate something called... I've heard it called heat. And that means heat for the audience. You want to make the audience get passionate, pumped up, angry. Like, let's say the heel slaps or punches the good guy in the face while the referee is knocked out or he's not looking. Or he pulls out a chair and hits the good guy. It's like, oh, that's not fair. And that's generating something called heat. That makes the audience get really pumped. Like, oh man, I really want to see that heel get what he deserves. If that drama is not present in the story and heat doesn't get generated, there's sort of a disinterest, a general disinterest that happens in the story. So to get to what's going on in Bite Size, or I should get used to saying Probl-o-Matic, Francine's role right now in the story is that of a heel. That's to say that she's behaving in a way that makes it seem unfair towards the face, the baby face, who is Duncan. Her role is absolutely necessary from a storytelling perspective, because she brings out characteristics in Duncan that nobody else is able to. We don't see his patience, his romantic feelings, the way that he would behave towards her or any woman in general, by showing how hard he can be pushed, but he's still a nice guy. No other character, let's say he was dating Xavier or something, she wouldn't inspire maybe the same feelings in Duncan. He's got this kind of a white knight-ish flavor to him, at least where he is now in the story. And I will explore why in the future. And maybe I could spoil that, but I don't know if I want to get into spoilers just yet. Maybe I'll answer this question some more. I think there are others. But will he ever talk to his wife about being more reasonable? I don't foresee that right now, because that relationship, the way it is right now, I actually want to escalate that. I think it's really good actually that the audience, at least the vocal audience, really hates Francine. Because she's the heel. She has to be the person like Macho Man back in the day to be like, to get the audience thinking, oh, I hope she gets what she deserves. Because that creates fun, that's storytelling, it's drama. But in the case of a romantic relationship, it's actually more interesting because it's not a fight, it's what's going to happen in their relationship. Are they going to get divorced? You know, that sort of thing. It's not a soap opera. I need to clarify that. This is not, the point of the strip is not to be a soap opera. It's, the point of this strip is about relationships and character. It's what happens when a person is pushed, you know. It's about the extremes of our personalities, among other things. But I really want to use Francine and people like her as building blocks, as inspiration to tell more interesting stories that would not happen if there was no friction. You know what I mean? If you're lifting weights, I know I'm using a lot of sports references. If you're lifting really light pound weights, like 5 pounds, you're not going to get a lot of muscle. You're not going to generate a lot of heat. But if you're lifting, 50-pound weights, you're going to start sweating. So Francine is really pushing Duncan. And other characters are pushing each other. And that creates heat, drama. That, to me, is maybe not the highest form of storytelling, but it's pretty good. Another question from 495 from Ignar. How far do you think you'll progress the lives of your characters? Are we going to see some major revelations, or are they going to be more or less linear with what you had in mind with these characters? Also, on a side note, I've read your comics since before you posted them on Webtoon, which I presume was your original site. But yeah, your work is amazing, and I hope you persevere on account of you enjoying what you do rather than to please a collective crowd. I love comments like that. Thanks so much. It's really nice to read. I understand especially that last statement. I am really enjoying writing this strip, and man, I have so many stories that I wish I had time to do. It's always a labor of love. Like, I'm not getting paid a lot to do these, so I wish I could just win the lottery or something and do nothing but write these stories, because they're always something. I always enjoy it. I love writing and drawing, but writing especially. It's weird. All right, so to the question. How far do you think you'll progress the lives of your characters? I think I've answered this one in a previous Q&A, I'm not sure. I don't plan... A comic strip is different from a linear story, like a graphic novel. At least this one. I don't have... what's the word I'm looking for? I don't have a point in the story where I plan to just have a goal or an ending. A lot of stories, like a strip, are sort of vignettes. They are platforms to let characters grow and interact with each other, bump into each other, and really the point of the strip is to make people happy or smile, or maybe sometimes have thoughtful storylines. If I progress the characters, like let's say Duncan and Francine get pregnant someday. That will be so that I can tell stories about raising kids. Although actually Spencer, Duncan's older brother, has kids, and there are some stories I want to tell there. If the characters experience development like that, it's so that I can tell more stories. The problem is if, let's say a certain character gets into a relationship with someone. That means it opens up stories to that plot line, but it closes stories to if that character was single. So these are major decisions that have to be made, that have a sort of rippling effect. If I don't want to talk about a specific character right now. I do want some progress with characters, but it's not because their lives are advancing or they're getting older. I don't plan to necessarily make the characters get older right now. If I change the characters, it's so that I can tell more stories with them. I hope I'm not being too vague, but I also hope that answers the question. I do plan to develop the characters, to have them constantly growing and changing, but the only goal is to make more storytelling possible and to make the characters more interesting and deep. I don't want to limit the characters. Like, if you watch The Office at all, some people say that The Office series officially ended when Jim and Pam got together in a relationship. And in a lot of stories, like say even a Jane Austen novel, the book ends when Marianne and Eleanor get together with their guys, you know. When the relationship starts, the story ends because, to go back to that wrestling reference, there's no more heat. The big what's going to happen is over. So I don't want to build up the story in a way, like maybe I'm not telling the story properly, it's very possible. I don't want to build it up of like the goal of the strip is, will Greg ever get a girlfriend? That's not really the point of the series. The point of the series is, let's watch these people do funny things or interesting things. I feel like the story would end if Greg got a girlfriend. You know what I mean? Maybe I'll answer this in more depth another time. Are we going to see more major revelations, or are they going to be more or less linear with what you had in mind? Let's see. I guess I answered that, didn't I? Major revelations. All of the characters have things that I've been holding back that will come forward later in the story. I want to give examples, but I'll tell you what, if anyone ever asks me this in person, like at a convention, I'll tell you, because you don't mind being spoiled. But I don't think I should say, you know, oh, there's this thing in this character's past, or this character is about to do something that's really interesting, or I've been setting this one joke up for 100 strips ago. Yes, there is always something that I'm setting up, and I think that's to my detriment sometimes. I feel like I'm setting up a lot of jokes, and I've been irresponsible, because a lot of people, you know, they read one strip or 2 strips a week, and it seems like it's been taking forever. But if you read the story in a linear way, like in a book, it's going to seem like it's happening immediately. Oh, this one thing happened 100 strips ago, and now on page, 150, oh, there's the payoff. So yeah, I'm always trying to set things up. My only regret is that I can't draw the strip faster. I'm always open to doing this full time, but that's going to take like a huge campaign. I have no idea how to do it. Like some kind of Indiegogo crazy fundraiser kind of thing. I could just focus on a strip for full time. I don't know, we'll see. I'm open to it.